Welcome to Queenmaker. This is a spirit-led conversation space for women who lead, create, and influence with intention. I'm Natasha Hillsman, and here we explore wisdom and strategy, mentorship and legacy, and what it truly means to lead with presence, clarity, and soul. Queenmaker was created for women who are done rushing, done shrinking, and ready to be visible without abandoning themselves. Because queens are not born, they are made. So wherever you're listening from, take a breath, settle into yourself. You're in the right place.
Queen, are you okay? Really? Before we begin today, I want to tell you why this episode is different. For 4 episodes, I've had the privilege of sitting with extraordinary leaders. I've asked questions, I've listened to their stories, and I've learned right alongside you. But today, I realize there was one interview I hadn't done yet, and that's the one with myself. Because there were questions I had never stopped long enough to even answer. And maybe, just maybe, they're the same questions you've been avoiding too. I also need you to know something about Queenmaker. Let's talk about this. If you thought this platform was created for surface conversations, you misunderstood the assignment. And that's okay too. Queenmaker was never about polished conversations. It was never about pretending that we've got it all together. And it was never about highlighting accomplishments while hiding what it can cost. Because queens are not surface level women. We carry a lot of things. Families, we carry businesses, organizations, communities, dreams, joy, grief, and responsibility. And sometimes all before 9 o'clock in the morning, child. So if we're going to talk about becoming, then we also have to talk about what almost broke us. And if we're going to talk about leadership, we have to talk about loneliness. If we're going to talk about courage, we have to talk about fear. And if we're going to talk about healing, then we have to talk about the wound. So I refuse to build a platform where we celebrate the crown, but we never talk about what it can cost to earn it. That's not Queenmaker. Queenmaker is about telling your truth. Queenmaker is about holding up that mirror to yourself with compassion. And Queenmaker is about asking the questions that matter. Questions like, Queen, are you okay? Really? Let's begin. Now I want to tell you a story. Not because this story is easy to tell, and not because I have all the answers. I'm telling you this story because I made a promise that if I ever found my way through that season, I'd go back for her. And while I was going back for her, I would go back for every woman who is still there. The woman who looks successful but feels invisible. The woman everyone depends on but nobody checks on. The woman who keeps saying, I'm fine. The woman who's become so disconnected from herself that she doesn't even know what she needs anymore. And if that's you, this story is for you. So I remember it like it was yesterday. My husband and my son and I were traveling to one of my son's basketball tournaments. So you know those tournaments where you go and you play all day long. So we were traveling for that, and we were staying in a hotel room. And my husband and son had gone downstairs for breakfast, and I stayed behind in the room. And I was lying in the bed, the hotel bed. I couldn't get up. My chest hurt, my back hurt. I remember rolling over. And you know what I said to myself? I said, this job is killing me. And then I said it again. It's killing me. Nobody else was in that room. It was just me. And I wasn't trying to convince anybody because there was nobody around to convince. I wasn't trying to be dramatic. I was simply telling myself the truth. At least the truth that I understood at that time. And I remember that morning so clearly. And what's interesting is that I can tell you that story now without emotion. Not because, it wasn't painful. That's not why it is. And not because it didn't matter. It's because I'm wiser now. Yep. But I did get up that morning. And I didn't die. But looking back, I realized something. I realized that the hotel room wasn't where the story started. It was where I finally stopped long enough to hear it. Because, that whisper had been trying to get my attention for a very long time. And maybe it's been trying to get yours too for a very long time. Queen, are you okay? Can I ask you something? Why are you still there? Why are you still in that job? Why are you still in that relationship? And why are you still in that situation? Why are you still telling yourself that this is just the way life has to be? I'm talking to the woman who keeps watching the people to her left and the people to her right get promoted, be recognized, celebrated, while she quietly keeps carrying everyone else. I'm talking to the woman who volunteers for everything, who stays late, who always says, yes, I'll do that, who makes herself available because she believes that's what makes her valuable. And I'm talking to the woman who's become so good at helping everybody else succeed that somewhere along the way, she stopped asking herself what success even looks like for her. And here's what I want to lovingly offer you. Maybe they can't fully see you because somewhere along the way, you stop seeing yourself. You keep waiting for someone else to validate what has always been true. You keep hoping the next promotion, the next compliment, the next office, the next title, the next thank you will finally make you feel seen. But when it comes to feeling, you're numb because no external recognition can heal a betrayal to yourself. Queen, I'm talking to you. Do you think I created this platform for high-level, superficial conversations? No. It is time to go deeper. And if you think I'm just going to sit here and watch you struggle year after year, you really don't know what Queenmaker is. Queenmaker is a warrior. Queenmaker is a healer. Queenmaker brings resources where they're needed. Do you think we don't see it? Do you all think we're going to sit there and tiptoe around you lying on the floor and pretending we don't notice? I'm not. Enough is enough. Grab your purse. Not yet, but soon. But before this conversation is over, we're leaving. I'm not leaving you there. Can I tell you something else? Sometimes being the strong one comes with a cost. When you're the one people call, the one who always solves problems, the one who opens doors, the one who makes the introduction or makes that call. You know, the one who stays after the meeting, the one who always answers the phone or returns the text. You know what I mean, and you know the kind of person I'm talking about. The one who sees potential before anyone else does. And the one without even being asked is already thinking about how they can help someone else reach their potential. People can also become so used to receiving from you that they forget to see you. And sometimes they forget to thank you. And sometimes they forget to ask how you are doing. And sometimes they don't even realize you've been carrying them. Now, before I go any further, I want to make something very clear, okay? This wasn't my experience with everyone. I have people who love me deeply, and my family has always been incredibly supportive. My husband has been my best friend through every season of my life, okay? So he's here through everything. He's right here. I have friends who have checked on me, friends who call just because, and friends who love me without needing anything from me. And maybe that's your story too. And maybe you have people who love you deeply. Maybe you have a wonderful spouse or partner. And maybe you have amazing children. And maybe you have friends who would be there in a heartbeat. This conversation isn't about whether you're loved. It's about a pattern that can quietly develop when you're the one everyone depends on. And here's what I learned. The woman everyone depends on is often the woman nobody checks on. That was me. And maybe that's you too. You've become so accustomed to pouring into everybody else that one day you realize very few people ever stopped to pour into you. And if they did, you will remember them because they're rare. They're the ones who called just to see how you're doing. They're the ones who invited you to coffee, okay? Because they genuinely wanted to spend time with you. Not because, they needed something from you. They're the ones who care about you as a person, not just what you do. You know what I mean by that. Those are your people. I'm going to need you to hold on to them because here's another truth nobody prepared me for. You ready? As you begin choosing yourself, your circle may become smaller and clearer. Not because you've become unkind and not because you stopped, loving people and caring about people, but because you stopped making yourself available to everyone all the time. That change can be surprising for people. And if I'm honest, you may have to grieve some relationships. I know I did. Not every relationship is meant to follow you. Not follow you into every season. And some people knew the version of you that was always available and said yes. The version that always rescued. The version that always fixed. Okay? And can we take a pause for a second? I don't call myself a fixer any longer. Do you know why? Because if you're a fixer, you have to be around broken things all the time. And I'm really done with that. So when you begin asking yourself, Queen, are you okay? You start answering differently. And not everyone understands that. And Queen, I'm here to tell you that that's okay. Because I'd rather have a small circle that truly sees me, okay, than a crowded room where no one checks on me. And here's what's changed everything for me personally. Whatever you're waiting to receive from someone else, you have to get that from yourself first. Love, recognition, thanks, celebration, all of that. Permission, any type of care that you're expecting from someone else, safety. So you have to learn to give it to yourself first and to trust yourself. Because if you're waiting for everyone else to notice what you need and you're waiting for them to notice those things, you may be waiting a very long time. And Queen, I'm going to tell you something else. You're too important to wait. You're too important to wait that long. Queen, if you made it this far in the conversation, first, I'm so proud of you. Because some of what we've talked about today isn't easy to hear. And it wasn't easy for me to live either. And it may not be easy for you to receive. So before we close today, I want to leave you with a few first steps. Not a 5-year plan and not a list to overwhelm you. Just a few places to begin. And here's what I'd love for you to do. I want you to write these steps down. Okay, so you can open up the Notes app on your phone, or you can start a journal or write them in your current journal or write them on a sticky note. So whatever works for you, you don't have to do them today, okay? And you may not even be ready today, and that's okay. Just keep them and then come back to them when you're ready. Because these aren't just tips. These are invitations to come back to yourself. All right, so let's go through these tips. So tip number 1, ask yourself, what do I need right now? And so a lot of times women almost never ask themselves that question. All right, they always answer. So when I ask a woman this question, like, what do you need right now? What I hear is she gives me answers about what everybody else in her life needs, her kids, her husband, her spouse, her partner, her mom, her dad, the job. Very rarely does she talk about herself first. And so a lot of times I have to bring her back to that. So it's almost like you have to, it's a privilege to even ask yourself, what do you need? You know, maybe somewhere along the way we were taught that that's not good to ask yourself what you need. The other part of that is you have to pause. You're not going to be able to answer this question if you're going 15 miles an hour or 55 miles an hour. You have to pause. And usually the first answer that comes to you, that's the answer about what you need right now in the moment. And so we all have to learn to trust ourselves. How many times have you asked yourself a question and then you heard an answer and then you're like, but is that true? And then you call someone to validate what yourself already told you. And then You want to hear this in a whisper as opposed to a scream. I was telling you before that the whisper had been telling me for years that I needed to make some kind of change. But it took a scream for me to finally hear it. And I don't know why we just wait around for the scream. We're waiting for the scream, a lot of us. Let's listen to the whisper telling us what we need. And, she's probably been trying to tell you what she needs for a very long time. So instead of waiting for someone else to ask you what you need, ask yourself what you need. So that's step number 1. Number 2, give yourself permission to pause. I had to learn what that looked like. Even when I thought I was pausing, I wasn't pausing. You know what pausing looks like? Taking your PTO days or your paid time off, your vacation days. There's like a badge of honor to have all these days left over in the end of the year. That's not good. Take your time off. Also, a lot of us have sick leave. And one thing I noticed about sick leave, I'm like, are we trying to manifest a sickness to take sick leave? A lot of us can take sick leave for well things. And so what I like to say is, I like to call it well leave. How about we call it well leave? And so instead of trying to save all this PTO and hours for all kind of things that we think are going to come up, why don't you take time off? Call it me time leave. That's another option. Well leave and me time leave. And then you can rest without having to earn it. How many times have you laid down and you're going to take a nap and then someone calls or someone comes in the house and you jump up? That is us not feeling safe to actually rest. Okay? And then you can take a walk for yourself or sit outside in nature. A lot of us have curated these very nice spaces that we live in, and we don't even go outside. We don't leave the house and we don't go outside. Block your calendar as well. I've had to learn that. And I'm talking about block your personal calendar and your work calendar to give yourself some time to pause. And taking time for yourself and a pause doesn't mean cleaning. But I will say this. I have a couple of friends that cleaning is like their therapy, okay? They're in their cleaning. That is a type of pause, but that's not really the pause that I'm talking about. Okay? So take a pause. That's number 2. Number 3, call your person. I'm going to say this. Call your person back. Because he or she has already tried to call you and you're avoiding them right now. And you know why. Call your person. And that's the person who answers the phone at 2 a.m. Actually, they're usually up for some reason because they know you're going to call. They're in sync with you trying to call. That's the person who doesn't judge. And that's the person that keeps your confidence. They can keep your things that you talk to them confidentially. And they're the person who genuinely loves you, not judges you. And I'm going to need you to call them, not text them. Because there is something about hearing someone's voice, the vibration of their voice, the frequency of the voice of the person that actually loves you. It's like picking up that phone. I have a couple sisters, and, one of my sisters, she can tell just by how I say, hey, exactly how I feel. Okay? And I can tell how a lot of my friends feel by just that first couple of seconds of a phone call. I already know. So I'm going to need you to call, not text. All right? And then if you're that person that usually is calling other people, I'm going to go ahead and call that person one more time. I know they don't want to pick the phone up sometime and it feels like, why am I doing this? But you know what? This is what I always say, sometimes it's just good to know that someone is thinking about you. And if your instinct tells you to call someone, call them. You're never going to regret that. Okay. Number 5, take one step. So I know I have a lot of people watching that's maybe listening to this podcast, and you are a go-getter. You're hustling, you do 55 things at the same time. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying take one step, okay? because you don't want that one step to change. That one step's not going to change your whole life. All right? And make that phone call. Okay? Put that boundary in place. The one that you know that you need to put in place. And then take care of that one doctor's appointment. The wellness appointment that you've been putting off. Write that resignation letter. Okay? And then one step becomes another. And then the last step is sit in silence. So that means no phone, no podcast, no television, no productivity. Just listen to what your body is trying to tell you. Okay, so let's go over these again. Number 1, ask yourself, what do you need right now? Number 2, give yourself permission to pause. Number 3, call your person. Okay? Number 4, sit in silence. And number 5, take one step. Okay? Hopefully you wrote those down. You can replay this back. So you don't have to know the whole path, just the next step. Before every decision, ask yourself this question. Queen, are you okay? Before we leave each other today, there's one more thought I want to leave with you. One of the women at our first Queenmaker dinner shared something that has stayed with me since. She talked about ladies in waiting, and I've thought about that ever since. You know, if you look throughout history and across cultures, queens were rarely ever alone. There were women beside them, and sometimes there were women behind them. Not because they were less important, because they understood something powerful. A queen was never meant to carry the weight of the crown by herself. She had women who advised her, women who protected her, and women who remembered her, and women who stood watch, and also women who had her back. And I started thinking, maybe we've misunderstood what it means to be a queen. Maybe sometimes being a queen means leading, and sometimes it means standing beside another queen while she remembers who she is. I am a queen, but I'm also a warrior, a healer, a strategist, an ally, a mentor, a coach. And sometimes I'm simply the woman holding another queen's purse while she catches her breath. And at the dinner, another woman described me as the advisor to the advisor. And I smiled because I knew exactly what she meant. Not everyone is called to do the same role, but every role matters because no queen should have to walk alone. Sometimes your season is to lead, and sometimes your season is to support, and sometimes your season is to heal. And sometimes your season is simply to stand watch until another woman is ready to stand again. That's Queenmaker. And that's why I want to leave you with this. If today's conversation stirred something inside of you, please don't ignore it. Okay? Talk to someone, a trusted friend, a mentor, coach, counselor, someone who can hold space while you take your next step. I didn't walk this road alone. I'm still learning, I'm still growing, and I'm still asking myself, Queen Natasha, are you okay? Because this isn't a destination, it's a practice. And if after today's conversation you feel like I'm someone you'd like to continue the journey with, I'd be honored. That's why I created WellHill Coaching and Wellness, and that's why I created Wellington Hillsman Consulting, and why I created the Queenmaker Podcast. Not because I have all the answers, I don't, but because I've walked this road. And from time to time, if you need someone to walk beside you, to remind you of who you are, to ask you the hard questions, or simply hold your purse a little while, I'd be honored to do that. Now, before we leave each other today, I want to ask you to do one more thing for me. Just for me. Take a pause, okay? And take 3 deep breaths. I'm going to actually do this with you. Inhale and exhale. Inhale, exhale. One more time. Inhale and exhale. Okay. You do it? Now, I want you to say your name out loud. Yes, your name. Say your name out loud. I'll go first. Queen Natasha, are you okay? Now it's your turn. Say your name and ask yourself, Queen, fill in the blank your name, are you okay? Then be still, okay? Don't rush the answer. Don't judge the answer. And don't try to fix the answer. Just let it come to you. There is no wrong answer, but there is a cost to never asking, to never checking in with yourself, to never listening. She's been trying to talk to you for a very long time, and today you finally asked. And whether your answer is yes, no, or I'm not sure, that's okay. Because now you know where to begin. And awareness is the first step. Every journey begins with one step. So, grab your purse, stand up, fix your crown, lift your head, don't look to the left, and don't look to the right. Look straight ahead. Come on, we're leaving. You don't have to stay here anymore. I'll meet you outside.
We close today. I invite you to sit with what stirred, not to rush into action, but to honor the insight that found you. Leadership isn't about doing more. It's about listening deeper, choosing wisely, and trusting your own knowing. If this conversation resonated, please like this episode and subscribe here on YouTube. It's how this space continues to grow and how more women find their way here. And if you'd like to stay connected between episodes, you can follow me on Instagram at WellHill, where I share reflections and behind-the-scenes moments.